Strap in and get ready.
The leaders in AFL SuperCoach are incoming, helping you win your leagues and climb up the rankings.
You're now listening to the Insight AFL Show with your hosts, Big Horse and Skinny.
Hello and welcome to the Insight AFL Show. I'm your host, the SuperCoach Horse, and with me tonight, a good friend of mine and someone who is all over everything pre-season in the AFL. I'm speaking of none other than Pete from Nerds for Life. Petey, how are you, mate?
Hello, thanks for having me back. It's good to be back. I've been excited for this episode because I've just been wanting to because I'm not posting enough apparently, and I need to now talk about everything that I'm posting, and I'm pumped.
Yeah, that's right.
Put it all into one.
Yeah,
mash
the 2 or 3 or 4 times a day that you're posting, people just can't get enough of it. So here we are.
Posts to make after this, by the way. We've got new news.
Oh, I like this. Watch this space.
Exciting. One that's really exciting. Like, I'm too excited for this.
Oh, wow. I can't wait to hear this. But, ladies and gentlemen, what we're doing tonight, we're basically summarising everything that's happened in the first, we'll say from November through to now in the AFL pre-season. Who's lighting up the track, who's not, injuries, and a whole lot more. We are going around the grounds tonight. But before we continue on, please hit like, subscribe, and the bell. We call it being a triple banger. We love that. And also, if you listen to us on audio, give us a 5-star review. We would very much appreciate that, and it would get us out to a more broader audience that follow SuperCoach. Now, before we kick off, Petey, I'm just going to go through our head-to-head leagues and unlimited leagues for those of that are playing at home. So our head-to-head leagues, we've got $25, $50, $100, $250 head-to-head leagues. We've got a $50 draft league, which is a first for Inside. We've got 8 in there at the moment, hopefully looking to get 16 to kick that one off, and a $25 overall points league. So if you're interested at all at joining any one of our leagues, please hit us up with a DM on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, or leave a comment down below and we'll get back in touch with you. But also, how good's being able to enter a league for free and win free shit?
Oh, it's the best.
It's the best. Thanks to the guys at the Standard Squeeze, we are running our unlimited league again. It is free to join. 356-460. I repeat, 356-460. It costs you nothing. And if you get top score of the week, you win a $40 prize pack thanks to the guys at the Standard Squeeze who have been sponsoring us since day one. Petey, let's talk footy.
Here we go.
The Adelaide Crows, mate, right off the top.
We'll start with the Crows, who I actually made a post about only 10 hours ago. So I've got some pretty recent stuff. Mm-hmm. I've been keeping an eye on Adelaide throughout the summer, and I've had some players floating in and out of my side. And funnily enough, right now I've only got 1 Crow, which is kind of weird considering I had about 4 at the start of the team pickup. But I'm just going to give you a little bit of an update. Now, this is the one that I am the most interested in personally, and that is Rory Laird, who's 561K. He's a mid only in SuperCoach. Guy's going back to his halfback role. He's played purely halfback in the last couple of match simulations. Mm-hmm. That is exciting. Now, I know that people think that, he was a 120 guy when he was playing pure mid, but then look at the couple of seasons before that. Guy was 110K mids.
He was one of the top defenders. Yeah.
So you pick him now, you're probably getting him at about, it's a good price. It's not a bargain, but, it's a good price. He doesn't have any of the early buys, and then at round 6, you switch him to your defense. But here's the thing: if there's a couple of injuries, he plays midfield, and that's still a good role because they're the only 2 positions he can really play in. Now, I don't have any update on his the kickouts, so we have to keep an eye on that when it comes to the practice matches. But if he's doing the majority of kickouts and he's playing halfback, it's going to be hard for me to say no. I'm going to be honest. Yeah. Matt Crouch is playing full-time mid, has been on fire, has been playing with the blue team, which is the main team. So I think Matt Crouch is going to be playing mid and for the ones. I don't think he's going to be pushed into the VFL. James Peatling, 352K mid. I know that he's incredibly talked about over summer. This week, he actually played on the wing, before
That's
moving
right.
into an inside mid role. Now, he has been inside mid previously in the other match simulations. Still looking really great. He looks like a good option, but the problem with Adelaide is they've got so many midfielders. So for me personally, I'm not sold on him personally just yet, but I know he's a popular pick. So a lot of guys are. Now, Dan Curtin, second year, 158k forward, was touted to play a lot of midfield or even potentially halfback this season. There was a match simulation last month, or it was early this month, but it was a few weeks ago anyway, where he did play a midfield role, and that was great. That was exciting. However, the last match sim that happened this week, purely forward, did get a couple of CBA, not enough to get excited about. So he has actually fallen out of my team purely based on that. Bit of an expensive rookie. I think he's got talent. He looks fit. He looks strong. But if he's not got the role, it's a no from me. I had a little ankle scare, 521k forward. Not an issue, I don't think. And Isaac, 287k mid, played his first match simulation after a couple of hamstring problems, has moved his way in and looked good, playing on the wing, a little bit of inside, and also across halfback. But the fact that he doesn't have a position nailed down just yet, and again, I don't know about the kick-in rotation, he's not in my... He's on my watch list, but not a lock at this stage.
Yeah, I like that, mate. If Isaac Cumming happens to be one of your halfback flankers or halfback flanker in the Adelaide Crows senior squad, and he's there come round zero, then he is worth a look, because we've seen in the past at GWS he has been priced at north of 500k. 2 years ago, I believe he was about 520k. So
I believe he averaged in the mid 90s 2 years in a row.
Yeah. So if we're talking those sorts of scores, then 280k would be a bargain, but probably too much doubt around his role to start with. But I really like where you're going with the likes of Laird. Dawson's playing that midfield role as well, who's at 550k. Peatling. People have been asking about Peatling coming off the wing and then playing midfield. There are some question marks there, but his hands, Pete, they were awesome in that intra-club game, and that's what people were raving about, weren't they?
Clean disposals as well, by foot and by hands. The guy's a good player. He's a good player, and if he's playing wing, he's still going to be thereabouts around the footy. So I don't think that's a bad thing. If he was resting majority forward, then he's a no-show. But if he's playing wing, then he's going rotating into the midfield. It means the guy's fit at one. He's got outside game and inside game. That's a good sign. And that's why Jordan Dawson is such a good player. So he started on the wing and also went into the CBA action too. Does actually score better, I think, on the wing. I think he had that season that he went nuts in 23. I think he was playing more outside from memory. So
it was. Yep.
Here's another one to keep an eye on, because with Peatland coming in, does that make Dawson more relevant?
Yeah.
Possibly.
Maybe.
Possibly.
Yep. And then we've also got Isaac Rankin, who's done an ankle in that intra-club that they had. For me, hamstring last year, ankle already this year. I want, even though there's no guarantees in AFL footy that the players that you pick are going to play all 23, 24 games, you're still going to want your players having a good chance to play in all of them. And if there's that sort of injury cloud hovering over the top of Isaac Rankin before the season even starts, mind you, at a primo price, you can, for that price that you can pick up Isaac Rankin for, you can grab Ashcroft, Day, Parrish, Oliver, all at cheaper prices. So for me, it's a safe fade to start.
The thing with that is it depends on the rest of your team as well.
Yeah.
If you're starting Sean Darcy, for example, do you want to be starting Isaac Rankin as well? That's potentially
right.
two players with injury history. So for me, if you're fading Darcy, maybe you can take a bit of a risk. If you've got like someone like a Darcy and Rankin, it's a bit too much.
Great point, Petey. We'll move on to the Brisbane Lions, mate. They have been doing a fair bit up north, but not really much getting out to the media. They like to do their stuff behind closed doors, as well as the Gold Coast Footy Club, who we don't have much on either. But what have you got there on Brisbane, mate?
So Kitty Coleman, 269k defender. Unfortunately, he's most likely going to miss round 0 and potentially round 1 due to a setback. He's look, to be honest, I know that it's sad come like AFL-wise, definitely. He's such a good player. We want to see him back on the field. But purely from a SuperCoach perspective, it's not a terrible thing because it means we get to have a 2-game look at him and a potential upgrade from a rookie to him or a downgrade if something else happens in your team and you need to make an adjustment. So hypothetically, you started Callum Mills and he's okay, but he's not that great. You've watched, Kitty Coleman kill 2 games in a row and now he's on his bubble. That's an easy switch. That's an easy switch and you bank that extra cash. So that's just something to consider. And then it'll be after his round 2x2. So that's not too bad either, which means you're actually looking at this upgrade at about round 6 if he comes in straight away to the main AFL team. So that's not too bad. Look, SuperCoach-wise, it might work out better for us.
It could work.
Rain Zorko does appear to be the main distributor, 595k defender. Mm-hmm. He has retained that role based on a match simulation. Levi Ashcroft, very, very popular mid, 185k, was likely going to probably be the number 1 pick if it wasn't a father-son selection. That's no offense to Laylaw, of course, but he's still with the rehab group after minor shoulder surgery. So that, for me, is a little bit of a warning sign because Brisbane don't need to rush him. Brisbane can say, actually, get fit, play a few VFL games, kill it, and then come into the team later. In all fairness, we've got the best midfield in the competition.
I wanted to ask you about that, Petey. So we're looking at the likes of Neil, Dunkley, McCluggage, Ashcroft, Zach Bailey goes through there. Mm-hmm. Their list and their depth is really strong. Jared Berry, like Cam Rayner, he goes through there as well. They've got a really deep midfield group that they could recycle 8 to 10 people through. And that's without Levi Ashcroft even coming into the team. So for me, at 180k, he had off-season shoulder surgery that I don't think is hampering him at the moment. But I reckon you could get better value for cheaper elsewhere because I don't see him being a staple in their midfield from day dot.
I've put together, and I know, I believe Squid put together a team as well, which I actually agreed with when it comes to Brisbane. Where does Ashcroft sit? On the bench. And where does the sub come from? Probably on the bench. Mm-hmm. You need to sub someone off. Are you subbing off Lachie Neale, Josh Dunkley? Probably subbing off the 18-year-old, right? Like, just saying. I feel like Brisbane's such a strong team that even if Levi Ashcroft is in their best 22, he's the sub risk every week.
Yeah.
And that's really concerning for me. I think he's a gun. I think he's a great player. I've seen some footage of him. This is not a dig at him. It's just he's not on my side and actually hasn't really been in my team picker team for a while. So
he's a victim of circumstance.
He is. He's a victim of circumstance. What it is. He came to Richmond. My God, I might even captain him. But he's not at Richmond. He's at the team that just won the flag.
Yeah.
Speaking of flag winners, Lachie Neale, 645k mid, is also in the rehab group, but he is running laps. Yeah. I think he'll be fine. Probably not a starting player because of their bye. Will Ashcroft, very popular, 441k mid, has been pushing himself at training. He's got a big year coming up.
He does.
Has actually destroyed a match sim. I think that he's a great player. I'm still annoyed about the bye, so I'm probably going to fade him purely for that reason. But if he comes out there and goes bang in round 0 and then goes bang in round 1, and one of my primos doesn't pop off, I'm probably going to pick him for round 4.
Probably going to have to, yeah.
But with the round 3. With the round 2 bye, it means that you can actually have a couple of game looks and then make a correction. So I'm not starting him. He's probably a correction. Lincoln McCarthy missed the flag last year, 339k forward. He's pushing himself for a round 0 recall. Looks good. Now, this is a little one that I actually like as a little bit of a POD, especially if you've got a draft like league. Is someone that most people have forgotten. That's Tom Dodoe. Has actually had some pretty good average seasons when he was at the Crows. Didn't play a game last year after he got injured in his first season at the Lions. Guarantee you he's not a player that many people are looking into. Probably not for Classic, but for draft, definitely. Is actually doing quite well in his progress and is a chance to play early.
Okay.
Sam Marshall, 113k mid, has been a standout at training. Dane Zorko couldn't speak higher about him in an interview. I think it was on SEN a couple of weeks ago. Apparently, it has been an absolute standout. So when you're thinking of a rookie option, if you've got a kid that's absolutely destroying it, right? Another thing with Levi Ashcroft, and Levi Ashcroft hasn't had that game opportunity yet. It just seems to me like it's a little unfair to not pick Marshall. So I think Marshall actually is a little bit ahead of Ashcroft purely because of how well he's trained and how well he's performed during the match sims. And then you've got, Smith, Raynor, Hipwood, Starvich, is that how it's pronounced?
Starcevich, yep.
Thank you. Is also in the rehab group still as well. So I don't think they're a major concern though. But they're the Brisbane updates thus far.
Yep. And we did hear today that big Oscar McInerney is making really good progress on that shoulder, and he's likely going to be back sooner rather than later, which means for everyone that was looking at Darcy Fort as a potential POD pick to start the year, that's probably out the window now because he could be back as early as round 2.
I did make that switch today. I did tell he was sitting as my D3. My R3. He's no longer anymore.
Yeah.
But still keep an eye out on it.
For sure. We move on to the Blue Baggers, the Carlton Footy Club. And there's a fair bit going on there this pre-season, especially when you're talking the likes of Walsh with the hamstring, unfortunately Newman with his knee, Curnow had some off-season surgery, Chincotta had some off-season surgery. There's a bit going on there, Pete.
There is, and it is very sad for Nick Newman. He was a defender that was on a lot of people's radars, and he will be next year because he's not too badly priced this year, so therefore next year he'll be maybe in the early 500k mark. So definitely one to look out for next year. But it does open the door for a couple of players. Now, some people think that means that Sam Docherty goes back to defence. Possibly. We haven't had a match simulation since the injury to Nick Newman, so we don't know. But that means that there's a hole in their midfield. So I don't really think that that's the way they're going to go, purely because, you fix one line, but then you ruin another line, or at least disadvantage that line. And it just doesn't make sense to me. But then you do have someone like Jaeger Smith coming in, so maybe he replaces Sam Docherty, and Docherty does go back. So just keep an eye out on that space. Docherty being priced in the early 500k mark, and then potentially could get DPP. We know that he is a proven scorer in that role. But the one that I think that we've been talking about a lot is Ollie Hollands. Now, Hollands has been training with the defenders since November. This switch actually took place late last year, and he had some spike scores. It looked okay in that role. Now, he's only 333k. He's entering, I think it's his 3rd or 4th AFL season now, which is around the breakout point. I think that he actually could be the guy, especially if he does take a majority of the kick-ins and the distribution that Nick Newman is leaving behind this season. He is currently sitting as my M5, personally. Has been there for a number of weeks. Definitely one to keep an eye out on, especially when it comes to the practice matches, when all the teams are put together. Is Docherty that main distributor, or is Hollands? If Hollands is that main distributor, if they go with the younger, faster, talented player, then, which I think they will, I think that he is pretty close to a lock. Then you've got the guys like Sam Walsh, who unfortunately didn't, and Charlie Curnow, who haven't been participating, but you'd think that they would be pretty much straight walk-ins into that side, so that's not a really big issue. I think Walsh is projected to be available come the practice matches, so keep an eye out on him. Ashton Moir, M-O-I-R, 119k forward, has been very impressive. Could be the replacement for Owies. Tom De Koning looks like he's the number 1 ruckman, but we don't really know because he's battling it up against Pitnet. So
I got some news for you on that.
Oh, you've got news. All right. I want to hear it. Let's go.
I reckon TDK is going to be solo ruck come round 0.
What do you have for me?
That exact thing. Voss is starting to train their troops as if TDK is going to be the sole ruck.
I'm making that change as soon as we come off. I'm making that change. I don't know what I'm doing, how to get it, but he's in my team. Don't know how, but he will be.
Yeah, he was never going to be in my team, but since I've heard that news, I'm like, yeah, we know what he's like without TDK, and if that's the way that they're going to go, then TDK is as safe as it gets.
I think so. If that's the way, because that run that he had when he was sole ruck was just insane. And
we don't want to keep banging on about their record, but they were 9-1 with TDK as the sole ruck, and then what were they, 4-10 or 4-9 without him, or playing the dual rucks? So yeah, it didn't work. I think the proof's in the pudding. Yeah,
it didn't work with the dual rucks, and it should be obvious to Voss now. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Supercoach wise. Yeah. Patrick Cripps has looked good. 590k mid. Is that surprising? Probably not. And Jack Silvani. This is someone I just want to bring up, especially when it comes to draft leagues, not so much classic. Now, he's 259k, I suppose, if you want classic, but again, has actually looked really impressive in his centre-half back role. Now, there will be a bit of a lockdown position, yes, but intercept marks, tackles, I don't mind it. Could actually bang out an average of 80, which actually isn't too bad for draft, because I guarantee you most people are forgetting him unless you've got a bunch of Carlton supporters in your league. So you could pick him up with your last defensive pick, and he might be all right. So just want to keep an eye out.
For sure, mate, for sure. Now, let's move on. Actually, before we move on, Adam Chera, he was signed to a 5-year contract at Carlton as well and has looked really good on the track. And they're putting all their eggs in that basket, aren't they? They locked him up. They want to keep him around. They see a bright future with him in the side. He's still relatively young as well, still in his mid-20s. So hopefully he can get a good couple of years of footy injury-free for Adam Chera. Let's move on. Yeah, they did. They paid a hell of a lot. The Collingwood Footy Club. You either love them or you hate them. But in Supercoach, they're relevant to a degree. How are they looking down there?
Well, hate is not a strong enough word, I would say. No, I'm just kidding. But Tom Mitchell, look, he's riding a bike. He's still with the rehab group. He's some time away. But that does open the door for a potential rookie. Ed Allen has done very well over summer.
He's been blitzing it, yeah.
He has been. I would like to have him in my team. I don't currently, but with the Tom DeConning news, I might. 194k mid. He's been basically running around in the CBAs. Ned Long has also been spending a lot of time in the midfield. Has been getting CBA action. They actually played on each other the last match sim, which was interesting. So from what I could see from the video footage, so that's interesting that they're roughly the same price and it looks like they're going for the same position. So that's good to see. Dan Houston played that halfback role from what I can see as well. 576k is suspended for round 0, which means you kind of don't get that look, but he will be available round 1. So you could just jump on him if you're really confident. Scott Pendlebury. Now, this is a guy I just want to point out that he has been alive. Sorry, that he has played. So he made his debut, right? The same year that the new recruits were born. That's how long this guy's been playing for, and he has been killing it in match simulations. The guy's still all class. 565k, probably not for classic, but he'd be a decent draft option. Lachlan Sullivan's been with the rehab group. Now, Oleg Markov, right, has looked really good in the match simulation that I saw. They were using him a lot. So that's just someone to keep an eye out on, just as a draft option. But he is rookie listed. He did technically get delisted and then relisted, so I don't know, but looked good. Jeremy Howe has looked good in defense. Darcy Cameron is the number one ruckman. He is definitely, absolutely the number one ruckman. Has just been bullying all their other ruck options, especially Mason Cox. Is the number one guy. There is no doubt in my mind that he is the number one guy, and I want him in my team. And I would have him in my team if it wasn't for that bye. But with the DeConning news, I'm going to have to make some changes, so maybe he does find his way into my team. Let's see. William Hayes has been very impressive with his run and with his run and carry across half back and the wing. Looks very talented. He's 113k mid forward. Oscar Steen has looked good up forward, 119k ruck forward, but I doubt that he gets game early. If he does, it'll have to be through injury. Jordan De Goey has been in and out of the rehab group, has been taking part in some match simulations though. Josh Dacos, again, only has been doing drill work, so no match simulations for him. And Nick Dacos has been seen sprinting on the sidelines, but he's still got that injury issue. I don't know, personally, with an injury cloud like that, and I've had that issue before, and it's painful, and it's annoying, and it's lingering, and then one day you feel good, and the next day you're in pain. It's not great, and you're paying a uber premium price, and he's got to buy in the first few games. So for me, he's probably an upgrade target or later.
Plantar fasciitis is nothing to joke about, and it is a dangerous injury if not managed correctly. So you are going to want to keep an eye out for that. Now, before we move on to the Essendon Footy Club, we've got a hot guy from America talking about our Patreon.
Want to take your SuperCoach game to the next level? Inside Fantasy Sports are bringing you exclusive content all year round, such as weekly expert Q&As, team, trade, and captaincy advice, statistical deep dives, priority podcast questions, and tons more. So what are you waiting for? Get full access to the experts. Go to patreon.com/Insight Fantasy Sports and subscribe to Insight Unlimited today.
There you are. And with our Patreon as well, we've got Petey writing some really good articles in there that I found quite informative, and I've actually learnt a thing or two as well. So if you're keen to read about team planning, buy analysis, positional data, we've got a new graph coming out, or a spreadsheet on taggers, and not just as an overarching game by game, but Deadly, who's frequent our AFL podcast frequently, has gone to the effort of watching the taggers and the players that were tagged in every game last year, and has put their scores for when they were tagged versus when they weren't tagged. So if you want all that data, we've got it inside our Patreon for you today. Petey, the Essendon Footy Club, my lads, is there any way that we can see finals this year, or do you think it's still a little way off?
Look, if you guys don't win a final this year, your non-final streak would be old enough to drink in the US.
Oh, that's not what I want to hear.
Just wanted to point that out. No, they've been looking all right. Over summer. Yep. So, at least not too bad. Maybe bottom four. I'm just kidding. I'm a Richmond supporter. I can't talk.
Yeah.
Nick Martin is a defender still in SuperCoach, but he's been actually doing quite well in a midfield role. So it looks like he's going to be playing a little bit more midfield, or a lot more midfield than that defender role. He's actually done a switch from what I can see with Dylan Shield. Now, I did make a post about Dylan Shield earlier this week, and I had a lot of people destroy me after doing that. But, I mean, it's justified. Dylan Shield is a guy that's in his 30s, has been in and out of Essendon's side for the last couple of years, and his best footy is probably behind him, but in this role, he looks good. So, for a draft pick, again, draft league, just keep an eye out at him. But he has actually been doing really well at training. Has been the main distributor. Then you've got Ben Hobbs. Unfortunately, he came off the ground early in the last match sim. So just keep an eye on him. He's been with the rehab group. Elijah Tsatsis, picked 5 3 years ago, 191k, has had incredible performances from what I've been told in the midfield. But he is going for that position with Will Setterfield, who's also been really good in that midfield rotation too. So let's just keep an eye on who Essendon pick as the number one, inside guy. I'm hoping it's Tsatsis, because if it is, I'm all over that.
Yeah, for sure.
You've got Zach Merritt. Zach Merritt's been fantastic, but he's been adding a little bit of forward craft to his game from what I have been told, which is not a bad thing. Someone of his caliber should just kick goals, and that's just extra SuperCoach points. Peter Wright has the last match sim didn't look great, but again, he's their main man. Darcy Parish is still away from the main group. Again, this is based on the last match simulation, but again, he's training well, so hopefully he can join the main group soon. Alan Davey Jr. has been fantastic up forward, but he did have an injury setback. So
he's just had surgery. and he's out for 4 to 6 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, which is annoying because he's been absolutely killing it. His fitness base is up. His impact during games were up when it came to the match simulation. So hopefully he can come back into the team later in the year and he could be a downgrade option at 146K. Isaac Kako looks all class, 149K mid forward. Very tempting to pick. Reece Unwin, 113K mid, has played half forward and has looked really great with some clean skills. So just another player to keep an eye out on. And then Saad El Hawley, 119K defender mid, is very popular. Unfortunately, his last match simulation was pretty quiet. And I've had a few onlookers say that they think that he might not be a walk-in lock, unfortunately. But I've had some other people say that he's really good. So you're getting some mixed signals. We'll just take a look at how he goes. But he's still, if he's playing, he's still a lock for me.
For sure. Really looking forward to seeing how the Essendon Footy Club line up this year, and with their youth movement and the way they've gone, they're the 14th youngest club in the AFL. So hopefully they find a way forward. Now, our next club, the Fremantle Footy Club, who I predict, and this is a big call because we're not even in February yet, but I think they'll be playing off for their first ever flag this year, Pete.
I like what I see thus far. There's a lot of players that are starting to enter the peak of their career. I mean, you've got like Nat Fyfe, who's at the tail end, but that's really about it. Everything else that I see is impressive. Neil Erasmus has been good. He's a hard worker. He's 119K mid forward. Gets a lot of CBA actions. He was best on ground in their grand final in the...
Yep, 181 SuperCoach points he scored in the Waffle grand final.
There you go. And I think his final series was insane as well.
Averaged over 160 SuperCoach points in the final series.
Incredible. Guy's got talent. He can find the footy. His use has been a little bit controversial the last couple of match simulations based on some onlookers. But they do like the guy, and he can find the footy. So if you can clean that up a little bit, he should be pushing for a spot in their main side. Hayden Young has been playing mid basically all the practice matches or all the match simulations. Will Brodie's been getting a lot of CBA action. He's 191K mid only, but I'd say Erasmus is probably ahead of him, which is weird to say. Yeah. 2 years ago, he was a premium pick. Cooper Simpson is one to keep an eye out on, 119K forward. Yeah, he has started very well and has been like starting in the mid CBA type and then moving up forward and kicking goals. This is a guy that I was actually keeping an eye on last year. Didn't really work out, but this year, this could be his year. Andrew Brayshaw, 591K mid, all day CBAs, basically all the practice matches, hasn't missed a beat come the pre-season. His finish to the year last year was super strong. Didn't have a pre-season, which is why he had a slowish start. Guy's been in my team since Team Picker, and he's not leaving that side. He's just in fantastic form from what I can see. Sean Darcy, now look, has been good at training. He's clearly their number one ruckman. He just bullies everybody else.
He does.
But now he's off to Qatar. But apparently it was all planned. From what I read,
it absolutely was.
Planned. He's looking good. Nothing. There's no issue. This was all part of his rehab plan. So for me, I still think that at that price point of 520K and his ability to score, he's got to be a watch.
Yeah, for sure.
Brandon Walker and Michael Walters have been with the rehab group. Caleb Sarong didn't compete in the last match simulation due to general soreness, but he did do running on the sides and has been competing in training since that point. So it wasn't an issue at all. And since that point, he's been fine. So everything's okay there. I wouldn't be concerned. Luke Jackson has been playing ruck forward, but again, Darcy hasn't played a match simulation yet. He's only been doing drill work. So I think that his ruck time really reduces when Darcy's in the side. Matthew Johnson, now this is a watch. 341K mid has been excellent over summer.
He has been.
Excellent. Now, I think his ceiling is about 107 against the Tigers last year. So it's not, I wouldn't say that he's a classic starter, but if you're in draft and you're looking for your last mid and he's available, or even your second last mid, grab this guy because he's going to be getting CBA action, and he's the kind of guy that should be able to score relatively well. Shai Bolton, 3 match simulations that we've seen. 2 of them, he got no midfield time. 1 of them, he did. So that means that he is going to be rotated most likely, but it will be probably very minimally. I think that forward is where he's going to play, but it also is the role that he does score okay in. Still not a starter for me, but definitely someone that could push to be a top 6 forward by season's end.
Yep.
Aidan Riddle, a 99k ruck, and Liam Reedy, 132k ruck, have actually been pretty okay during the match simulations. However, they have been playing on each other, so they're both rookies. So maybe I don't know. Right. Let's see what happens when he goes up against Sean Darcy. Sam Sturt injured does open the door for Cooper Simpson. That's another one that I mentioned. Murphy Reed has had another quiet match the last couple of match simulations.
Yeah, he's been quiet. Yeah.
131k mid, probably not pushing for a spot in the side at this point in time.
Probably not.
Jordan Clark, he's had a great game. He's been able to get plenty of the football over the last couple of match simulations. Look like he's the main distributor. So he looks good. And then Luke Ryan, 28k defender. Unfortunately, in the first match simulation, he got a knock, and since then he's been wearing a non-contact hat, so we haven't seen the best of him yet. I still think he's good.
Yep. Yeah, 100% he is. And going back to Cooper Simpson, I like that you brought him up because he was given Matthew Pavlich's number 29. And for those of you that don't know, that's a big deal for Fremantle to pass that number down to someone like Cooper Simpson. So they obviously see enormous potential in him. So if he starts the year and he's roaming around that half forward and playing that high half forward role with some CBAs at 119k, I think that could be a really nice purchase for your forward line, ladies and gentlemen. Geelong is our next team. And before we get stuck into Geelong, Matt Rowell isn't there yet, even though he was down there having meetings with Coach Scott and Andrew Mackey at a private hotel a couple of days ago. But we'll concentrate on who's at Geelong before we announce that Matt Rowell's dad has just been given a $500,000 job with that company that sponsors the Geelong Footy Club.
So, we won't get into Matt Rowell yet, even though he's probably a lock for their midfield next year.
Yeah.
We actually, before today, I had nothing. But then I had a couple of onlookers who watched training. They had a little bit of a run, which has been good, a little match simulation. We have notes on them now. We have notes. This is the first time. So this is the news that I was excited about. Now, Tanner Bruin has been running away from the main group, so he wasn't taking part. No Toby Conway. I have heard injuries. I think you mentioned it to me as well. He's had a little bit of an injury cloud.
Yep.
Now, it was a 12 versus 12 match sim, and Jack Henry and Mark O'Connor undertaking weight training only, so they were also not competing. But this is the exciting part. This is the one that I am most excited about, and it is someone, and it is someone that scored 135 in his only game in the ruck last year, and he was spotted playing ruck against Reece Stanley in the match simulation. It is a defender. And he's a mid-pricer. He's 133k. It is the other DeConnie.
Yeah.
It is Sam DeConnie. He was playing ruck. Okay?
Right.
Now, this gets me in all forms of excited. Now, does this mean that he's just the folly for, or the guy that comes in for Reece Stanley, or is he their number one ruckman? He's still a wait and see. Because we know that Reece Stanley was actually drafted, I believe, as a forward. So he could play forward a little bit with the retirement. With retirements, he could be drifting forward and be the relief ruckman. And maybe DeConning's the guy that is their number one ruckman now, especially with Conway unavailable. So keep an eye on what Geelong do. But if he's their number one ruckman come round 1 or round 0, that's the main thing. He's in my team. That's just it. He's just in my team. Cam Guthrie is also away from the main group as well. He was relevant last year. He's in his 30s now, probably, and someone that you wouldn't pick for classic. Draft league, he will be a late pick. There's no way that he's number one on anyone's radar. And if he does get a good run at it, we'll be okay. Bailey Smith has looked phenomenal, according to the onlookers. So, again, mid-pricer in your forward line, just lock him up, put him in your team. Sam Morefoot has been okay. Hopefully he uses his feet more and gets some kicks. The guy, that was a terrible joke. I'm sorry. That was horrible. That was just terrible. I'm just going to
I was going to let it slide, but now that you brought it up.
And that was
be
just...
better, Pete. Come on.
That was bad. Yeah. No, I'll take that. Now, the main this is the mid-group that attended the CBAs. Smith, Nevitt, Myers, Bowes, Atkins, Dempsey, Clark, not Atkins, Stevens and Holmes. So Holmes looks like he might be getting more CBA time. I know that he got that halfback role, and he was moved to the CBAs, and then he was moved to the wing throughout the season, and it meant that his scoring was just inconsistent, which as an owner was very annoying. You captain him for his 132 game. That was amazing. And then he scores, then he pumps out like a 95. And you're like, it's good, but it's not great. I'm not a fan with the Holmes pick purely because of that. Zach Guthrie was their main defender. Stewart lined up in their back line. Blikovic, Backman, Duncan, Backman, Mullen, Backman, O'Sullivan, and Colin Jasny, and Humphreys all defence as well. So that's the news that I have on the Cats. Obviously, this is one match simulation. But keep an eye
Is there anything on Mitchell Nevitt?
Mitchell never got CBA action, from what I was told. He was in the mid group CBAs. That's how he did. Is not something that I'm aware of. I just know that he played there. He
could be this year's Ollie Dempsey. So just keep an eye out for him, ladies and gentlemen. He's about off the top of my head, 141k midfielder on SuperCoach. So that's my rookie to look out for down at Geelong.
Why are they all midfielders? Can we get some good ones in other positions, please?
Yeah, that's right.
Maybe we just don't start any primo mids and just get all the rookies.
just fly. Now, Pete, we'll do Gold Coast and GWS, and then that'll do us for this evening. Gold Coast. So they've been fairly tight-lipped, haven't they? There's not much coming out of there.
No. Look, there was an onlooker that did go to a training session, and this unfortunately was all the way back to mid-December. Okay, so it was before the Christmas break. Leo Lombard has been very impressive. He looks like he's the type of guy that will play inside midfield eventually. But when you've got someone like Humphreys who is playing as a forward because that midfield is so full at the moment, I don't think Lombard makes the team. I just don't. And if he does, he's probably not playing the role you want him to. Daniel Rioli is aiming to be, ready to go for the practice matches. So that's one to keep an eye out on. Connor Boderick has been fantastic fitness-wise. So, in the right role, he could be someone to look out for your draft leagues. Matt Rowell is at Geelong. I wouldn't be...
Yeah, that's right.
If he is wanting to leave, which, if you remember how Tim Taranto was or Joe Danaher were in their final years, for example, when they clearly didn't want to be at that club, they're going to have... I wouldn't be surprised if Matt Rowell has a back soreness for most of this year.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
Yeah. Gold Coast, they'll be harder, I think, to pick for SuperCoach scoring this year than what they have in previous years, just given that they've got Dan Rioli in as a running defender now. They've got John Noble, who's underrated from the Collingwood Footy Club, as a running defender as well. They've got Boderick, or Buderick, however you say his surname. Bodie Hewland is down there as well. Sam Collins. All of a sudden, they've got quite a solid backline, and then you throw Noah Anderson, Ned Flanders, these sorts of guys, Jared Witts, the ruckman as well. Like, they've got quite a deep list now. So I'm very interested to see Gold Coast play their first final series this year, and I think it's well within reach, especially if they can learn to win away from home.
The only problem is with that, and I think they would, but Matt Rowell has to be one of the main guys. And if he's not firing because he's not wanting to be there, that's a concern.
Yeah. I think he still has trade currency though, Pete. When you talk about they've got Sam Flanders who can play in and under, they've got Noah Anderson who can play in and under. I think they've got players that can do that. They don't have the tackling prowess as what Matt Rowell has, but you think of the players around the AFL and how disposable an inside midfielder is. Like, they're not going to probably get the quality of Matt Rowell back in return, but if they can get a couple of draft picks for him, Gold Coast will be more than happy, especially to get draft picks this year coming for Matt Rowell before Tassie take all the first rounders for the next couple of years after that.
That is important as well. So that's one way to look at it. But a team like Gold Coast, and this is my opinion, they want to be going for that top 4 position in the next couple of years. And losing someone like Rowell and gaining a couple of draft picks it's just going to put a little bit of a stopper to that, and it's not great.
Yeah. Our final team for this evening, ladies and gentlemen, we'll do the first 9 teams tonight, and then we'll do the last 9, alphabetical order, of course, not by ranking or anything like that, in the coming days. But we'll talk the orange team, GWS. So was it what's her name? Kelly Underwood. She won a Order of Australia medal for her services towards commentating for the AFL. So congratulations, and hopefully you can get players' names right and teams right. So anyway.
I love the orange team.
The orange team. So, and they love it on social media as well. So what have you got for us down there, mate?
So they actually had a match simulation yesterday at the time of recording this. And again, I'm just glad. I'm just glad the Giants and Geelong and Melbourne, for example, they must have known that I didn't have any notes on them and they didn't have match simulations that I was aware of. And they kindly had all their match simulations in the last 24 hours for this podcast. So thank you, the Giants and Geelong. Jake Stringer, is he on your radar?
Absolutely not.
That is completely fair enough, but did look good in the practice match. So he did look good, did hit the scoreboard and was okay. Cody Anglo, 113k mid forward, was very impressive in the middle, found the football and got some clearances. So just want to keep an eye out on. Now, this is the guy that I think could be a pretty good POD. Okay, now he played 22 games last year, but all of them were basically as the sub or subbed. So he didn't really get a good crack at it. And that is Harvey Thomas, 281k forward, was very impressive playing as a CBA mid. Okay. So that was interesting. So that's interesting. And based on what the Giants posted on their website, it looks like that he is going to be a part of their midfield rotation. So do keep an eye out on him.
I like that, Pete.
I don't mind that pick. Joe Fonte, 160k defender, also showed class playing in a half-back role. Now, James Leake, I've got a few Giants fans that say that he is the man to keep an eye out on, has been doing really well over summer. Also played mid, and you get him as a defender. Apparently, he's the pretty much like-for-like replacement for Perryman. So that's one to really keep an eye out on for defence. But a little bit of 119k, not bad. Connor Stone, 119k forward. He's had a strong summer, but didn't really have a strong match simulation game. So I don't think that's a major concern. I think that he's still in the running for a spot in their side. One of the second or third most popular ruckman from 2 years ago, Nick Madden, if you remember, could be pushing for a spot in the side if the Giants do actually opt to have some sort of ruck relief for Briggs. I don't think they will, but they might, because he's entering his third year and has actually looked okay thus far at training. Toby Green, you know what you're getting from him. 426k forward was great. He kicked a couple of goals. Jesse Hogan, 497k forward, dominated up forward, kicked 2 goals. Now, Jesse Hogan played on Dylan Buckley, by the way, who actually did a decent job on him as well. So just, keep an eye out on. I like Buckley personally. I think he's actually a decent player. Darcy Jones, 351k forward, showed strong signs. Now, this is going down base from price, 99k. Joe Hosier Delana showed some great signs up forward. Could be an interesting loop option early because he might actually get some games later in the season. So I don't mind him. Did look really good. Tom Green, CBA action. Lockie Whitfield, defender as always. Just look, they would be locks if it wasn't for their round 2 bye. Wait, when's their bye? I don't know, one of their buys. Whichever buy it is, if it wasn't for that, they'd probably be in more teams. But maybe as an upgrade option later in the season.
For sure, mate. Ladies and gentlemen, that's our first 9 teams that we're going to run through here. We want to try and keep these updates to under an hour. So then, 1, you guys can stay tuned for the hour and not lose too much interest. But 2, we can bring you all up-to-date information as it happens. So we thank you, Pete, for your work at going around the grounds, doing what you're doing, collating the information from all sources and bringing them to the AFL front or the SuperCoach front on all social media. For people that don't follow you, where can they find you?
So the @ symbol for pretty much all my social medias is below nerds, the number 4 life SC. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, although I haven't posted there in a while, YouTube, as well as Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, or X now, are the main ones I do post on.
For sure. And if you want to keep up to date also with all things happening around the grounds, Pete is also inside our Patreon and in our WhatsApp group. So join up to our Patreon. It is a cup of coffee a month. That's all it'll cost you if you want the paid subscription. And you get Pete on tap. You can ask him any question anytime. You got a question about Collingwood practice matches or Sydney practice matches. This guy's got contacts all around the country. So a fabulous asset for us to have on the Insight Fantasy Network. And we look forward to working with you again for the rest of this year, Pete. So thank you for your time tonight.
Thanks for having me. It's going to be great fun this season. We did try, I think we were a little ambitious wanting to do all 18 clubs, especially considering how much I crap on. But yes, the other 9 teams will come shortly. And my Tigers are coming up next. That's probably going to be 30 minutes.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear about the team that's going to finish 0-23. But anyway,
everything.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. We will catch you next time where we talk the other 9 teams and where they're at, who's hot, who's not, injuries, and a whole lot more. Stay tuned. We'll see you then.